Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing A Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 6, The Iron Throne. The series finale. Yeah guys, we have been on quite a journey for 8 seasons. We have been leading up to this final episode. And it's over, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. There's a part of me, I'm just so thrilled and excited that I've been there since season 1, episode 1. You know, I was kind of one of those people that started with the show as soon as it aired. Yeah, because there was a large chunk of the audience who started, you know, either during season 3 or during season 4. So yeah, I'm definitely part of that group that's been there since the very beginning. And yeah, there's a part of me that I'm thrilled and I'm excited that it's over, but then there's also the part of me that's like, oh my goodness, this huge part of my life is over, and it's a little sad and depressing. But oh my goodness, this finale, we have been leading up to this, a lot of craziness went down. You know, this whole season in general, this has been a really crazy season in general. The fandom has been very split and divided, very divisive. There's the people who like it, the people who hate it, the people who are kind of in between. Yeah, this season is going to be one of the most notorious seasons in television history, I think, because of the turmoil it caused within the fandom. But yeah, I have definitely been on the side of continuing to support the show, still continuing to highly enjoy this season. I think for me, the way I watch television personally, I mean, I don't let things upset me and bother me. That's what I've noticed about this season as a whole, that people just get really riled up, they get upset and angry with things, and yeah, that's not me, that's not my personality. That's why I've had all these really positive reviews. If you've been watching all these videos, I've just been very optimistic and hopeful, and just overall I've really been enjoying the season. Why do I want to be hateful and angry and bitter about it? You know, I mean, life is short, okay? Life is short. I choose to have fun with life. I choose to have fun with this show, and it still provided hours of entertainment for me. Yeah, were things not perfect this season? Yeah, there were some things that weren't entirely perfect, but yeah, like I said, I choose to watch this show for entertainment and the joy that it gave me at the end of the day. And I'm just really grateful and appreciative of the show as a whole. I'm grateful that this show even entered my life. I'm grateful for the feelings that this show provoked in me. I'm grateful that this show actually made me very interested in history. I've always been very interested in history, and if you watch other videos on my channel, you notice that I tend to review a lot of historical fiction books and watch a lot of historical fiction shows and movies, and yeah, I've always been interested in that type of stuff, but Game of Thrones, I think, really elevated my enjoyment of things like that, my enjoyment of history and historical fiction and fantasy and whatnot. So I'm just very grateful what this show provided for me. I appreciate it immensely. I appreciate the hours and hours and years that this crew and this cast, these writers, these directors, the costuming, I mean, everybody involved with this show, I'm just very grateful and appreciative of what I've been given, to be quite honest. And I'm there's a part of me, like I said, I'm happy that it's over, because this is something I've been anticipating for close to 10 years now, and but yeah, I'm also very sad about it. And also, I'm grateful that this show entered my life too. I mean, it introduced me to George R. R. Martin's books. To be quite honest, I had never heard of George R. R. Martin. I had never heard of A Song of Ice and Fire. So I'm glad that this show introduced me to those books, and I really love the books. And I'm very excited to see where the final two books in the series will go. You know, we could talk about that by the end of this review. Is George R. R. Martin's book ending, is it the same as the show ending, or is there going to be another twist to expect? So yeah, I mean, that's my personal thoughts, just overall with this show. I'm just very grateful and appreciative and happy and sad. You know, I just have a large feeling of emotions with this finale. So yeah, you guys, let's get going into the series finale discussion. I got my notes ready. I'm ready to share my thoughts and my feelings. Let's talk about the title real quick, you guys. The title for this series finale was The Iron Throne. Now, yes, that title was a perfect ending, because the Iron Throne, what does the Iron Throne represent at the end of the day? The Iron Throne this entire time has always represented ambition and greed. But Drogon ends up destroying the Iron Throne. The Iron Throne is not really important by the time the show ends, like many of us were kind of expecting. So the title, The Iron Throne, does make sense, but at the same time, I think a lot of us were kind of hoping the title might be A Dream of Spring, because so far, all of the book titles, for the most part, have kind of made their way somewhere in an episode title. Not all of them, but a good majority of them for the most part. Yeah, because we got Winds of Winter as an episode title, because I believe that's the next book coming out. And yeah, I think a lot of us were thinking the series finale might be A Dream of Spring. So I'm a little conflicted about the title, because I would have liked maybe the book title to be in there, but also, I mean, just the title of the Iron Throne at the end of the day, that makes sense considering what happened in this episode. Okay, so let's get going. We start off pretty much in the immediate aftermath of the chaos and the destruction that Daenerys Targaryen rained down on King's Landing. Last week's episode was a shocker. I mean, whether or not you had a feeling Daenerys was going to go Mad Queen, I mean, either way, the episode was a shocker. We see characters walking through the rubble and the destruction, and I'm still not quite sure, because it had a very snowy landscape to it, but winter had not come to King's Landing in that moment, correct? I mean, that was all straight up just ash, correct? That wasn't snow, because it did have a very snow-like effect going on, but I don't know, the amount of destruction Daenerys did, that seemed like everything we were seeing was more ash than snow, unless it was a mixture of ash and snow, I really don't know. But we see characters walking through the rubble and destruction. We see Tyrion and Jon and Davos, and yeah, we're witnessing their point of view, just looking at all of this, looking in disbelief and shock and not understanding what has just happened, not understanding where this journey, this story has just gone. And yeah, oh my god, you see the bodies lying around. They focus on a dead little girl. They focus on just other bodies. Yeah, there's that one man that walks by, and it looked like his entire back was like burnt off or something. It was really gross and gruesome. Yeah, because the people who are still even alive, I mean, the people still alive are just walking around in a daze, you know? I mean, they're just as lost and confused as our main characters. And yeah, I mean, if you look around closely, I mean, you see skeletons just laying in the rubble. Just pure skeletons with no flesh or hair or clothing on them. And it's a very disturbing scene that we're walking through, and very effective. And yeah, this is what these characters need to see and witness, you know, to get them in the right headspace that we see them in kind of later, and how they feel about Daenerys ultimately. So yeah, we move on from that. Tyrion is going to make his way back into the castle, and Jon, in the meantime, he comes across Grey Worm and some Unsullied. They have some Lannister soldiers lined up. It's essentially an execution for these soldiers. And yeah, to Jon, to him, the war is over. You know, the war is over. They have won. Look at all this destruction and death. Why are you guys still killing these men? It's over. You've won. Treat these men as prisoners. And yeah, I totally agree with Jon and that feeling, you know. I mean, enough is enough, you know. But Grey Worm is like, I'm acting under the orders of my queen, and the war is never over. So Jon, I think he gives up in that moment. Like, what can he say and do? He needs to be careful about his actions as well. So he walks away. We do see Grey Worm just slit the throat of all those guys, and yeah, I mean, even though these Lannister men, even though they were part of the Lannister army, I mean, that doesn't mean they supported Daenerys, you know? I mean, that was the point of that one scene last year, where everyone was so distracted with Ed Sheeran's character. That was the point of that particular scene when Arya is with those Lannister men, is to humanize the soldiers, and that they're just doing their job and they're doing their duty. It doesn't mean that they're bad men. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're in total support of Queen Cersei. You know, they had families to go back to, wives and children, and that was the point of that scene. And I think when you're watching this moment with Grey Worm with these Lannister soldiers, I mean, it made me kind of think back to that moment with Arya and those soldiers, and that these men, you know, they're not guilty or innocent. They were just doing what they were told, and they've lost everything. You know, their families were probably somewhere around here. Their families are probably dead and gone, you know? So it's kind of a sad moment there with what Grey Worm does to these soldiers, because it wasn't necessary, I don't think. Go to Tyrion. He's making his way into the castle, and as soon as I was watching this scene and Tyrion was starting to go underground, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna go try and find his brother and sister. The thing is, though, I was like, there's no way. You know, the last shot we got of Jaime and Cersei, they made it look like the entire damn building was caving in on them. But when Tyrion gets down there, the building is still mostly intact, but there is still large chunks of rubble everywhere. So this is a bit baffling. This whole moment was a bit baffling because the whole building did not go down like it appeared in last week's episode. And then, yeah, Tyrion, when he does find Jaime and Cersei, you guys, they're not under too deep a level of rubble. So yeah, it is a little baffling, because it's almost like, well, Jaime and Cersei didn't have to really die in that moment. They could have just moved over a little bit and been fine, because yeah, there were patches of area where there wasn't any rubble. So it's a little baffling, like, it kind of don't make much sense when you think about it. But once again, I'm not going to linger on that. You know, the point of this scene is that Tyrion is finding his siblings, and it's a very emotional scene. I mean, when you try to ignore kind of how everything's kind of laid out, if you just ignore that, the scene is a very emotional, effective scene, I think, because here's Tyrion by his lonesome, and he sees Jaime's golden hand sticking from the rubble, and he starts moving the rubble, and there's Jaime and Cersei in the rubble, dead, but holding each other, and it's very sad and emotional. I definitely got very teary-eyed And I definitely felt for Tyrion in this moment, because I think for Tyrion needed closure. You know, he needed closure. I think he already knew his brother and sister were most likely dead, but there was that part of him, he needed that closure. He needed to be absolutely 100% sure. And it is. It's very sad. Yeah, he's had issues with his siblings, you know? He's had issues. He did have a much closer relationship with Jaime, and then yeah, him and Cersei, it's always been lopsided, you know? But Tyrion, at the end of the day, I mean, this was his family. These are people that he spent time with and loved in his own way. So it is. It's a very sad scene, you guys, and yeah, poor Jaime and Cersei, they're in the rubble and they're dead. I mean, you could say that even though it wasn't a big, huge pile of rubble that was on top of them, I mean, you know, death happens in mysterious ways. I mean, the human body is a frail, fickle thing. Yeah, I mean, even just that small pile of rubble on top of them could be very effective. The human head is not very strong when you think about it. Yeah, just one brick knocked into the head, especially from up high, one brick in the head can definitely kill you. So yeah, even though like I said, it was a puny little small pile of rubble on top of him, but yeah, I mean, the point is, life is fickle, life isn't fair, the human body is frail, you know. And still, it was a sad emotional scene to me, and it brought closure to Tyrion, you know, it brought closure to that Lannister relationship at the end of the day. So we move on from that. We go out into, I guess, the main open area. You know, the thing is, so much of King's Landing has been destroyed that I'm not really sure what to call certain locations anymore. So I guess where we move to next, kind of out there in front of the castle, I guess, yeah, we see the Unsullied lined up, the Dothraki out there, Daenerys comes riding in on Drogon, Arya and Jon are making their way up to the castle as well. First of all, let's talk about that freaking amazing visual of Daenerys. The camera is center frame, she's walking towards the Dothraki and the Unsullied. A freaking amazing visual of her, that straightforward, and the wings, the dragon wings, come out directly behind her, and it's Drogon's wings. Wow. I freaking love that. I need that as a poster. Because me and my sister were watching this episode together. I was like, I need a damn poster of that image with Daenerys and the wings behind her. That was so awesome and so badass. And there was almost something very devilish about it. I kind of started thinking about it with the dragon wings. I was like, oh my goodness, there's something kind of devilish and ominous about it, you know? And it does, it really puts Daenerys in this villainous light in some ways. So yeah, I just had to gush about that visual, because that visual was just amazing. Whoever set that up, bravo to you. Dany comes out and she speaks in Dothraki, and my question, who understands Dothraki? Because the Dothraki obviously know Dothraki, and I'm assuming the Unsullied know some Dothraki. Tyrion barely understands it. He can get by. But Jon, I'm assuming Jon has no knowledge of Dothraki, because that's what I was wondering about this whole scene. I mean, could Jon even understand what she was saying? But the thing is, the emotion she was giving and the reception the audience was giving her, I think Jon could figure it out through context, you know, what she was possibly saying. But either way, Daenerys starts giving her grand big speeches like she does. I gotta applaud Emilia Clarke. You know, Emilia Clarke, here's this made-up language that she has to deliver, and it's a very tricky made-up language, and I always applaud Emilia Clarke when she delivers these speeches, because I imagine that it's gotta be super complex and difficult, and she says, you know, she delivers these speeches like it's nothing. You know, it just seems like it comes naturally, and you believe her, you know, you believe she is really speaking this made-up language. So yeah, kudos and bravo to Emilia Clarke for really delivering this scene and making it effective, I think. So yeah, she essentially thanks the Dothraki and the Unsullied for taking this journey with her. Yeah, destroying the men in their iron suits and destroying their houses and whatnot. Yeah, she makes Grey Worm, what was his title? The Commander of War or something. She gives him a brand new title, a new position. Yeah, everyone's just getting riled up and going, yeah, hell yeah. And Daenerys is really enjoying this. You know, she's really relishing this attention and this glory that she has received. But yeah, off in the corner, we see Jon and Tyrion and Arya. You know, just the look of concern and panic in their faces, like, oh my God, what have we done? So what her speech kind of boils down to, I mean, it's not over. This should have been it for her. You know, King's Landing, this should have been the satisfactory conclusion for her. Her whole journey has been building to simply just retaking the Iron Throne and reuniting Westeros. But with her speech, she's gotten so power hungry, and her ambitions are just tenfold. And it's not just, hey, we're not just taking King's Landing. We need to liberate all of Westeros. We need to liberate Dorne and Winterfell. If anybody fights back against us, we're going to kill them all. And she moves on to the thing of not just Westeros, but the entire goddamn world she wants to liberate. And yeah, if that requires burning everything to the ground, that's what she's going to do. And yet, Daenerys in this moment, oh my God. You know, I love a strong, powerful woman, but Daenerys in this moment, she goes beyond being a strong, powerful woman. I mean, she just immediately heads right into being a dictator and being a tyrant, and she doesn't see herself as that. You know, that's the problem. You know, you always hear that phrase, a villain never sees themselves as the villain. This definitely applies to Daenerys and her whole journey. I think that she's always seen herself as privileged and the rightful and true heir to the Iron Throne, and that she has this greater, huge destiny that she's supposed to achieve. And yeah, she, in her own way, she kind of has, I think she's always been the villain all along. But the way we have always seen Daenerys, you know, how the show always depicted her early on in early seasons, you know, it started off with her wanting to liberate herself and then liberate the slaves of Essos. And that was all fine and dandy, you know, that was all fine and dandy. I mean, we were kind of tricked in some ways early on, seeing her as the heroine and the protagonist of this story. But it's all been a lie, you know? I mean, if you want to think about it that way. Because, once again, like I said, the villain never sees themselves as the villain. And I think that's kind of what we can take away with her whole journey, to some degree, if that makes sense. And she sees herself as the savior. She sees herself as the liberator. She doesn't give a damn what she's just done here, because to her, you know, these people, they had a chance, but they chose to stay here and support Cersei. But once again, Daenerys doesn't see those complexities in human nature, you know? She's never, I mean, if you think about it, she has never seen those complexities in humanity. She kind of always sees people as good, as either pure good or pure evil, and she never sees that in-between of goodness and evilness. And yeah, she totally just ignores the complexities about why people do the things that they do. Because even in Meereen, I mean, if you want to go back to an early example in Meereen about her ignoring the complexities of human nature, you know, when we first see her, you know, putting the slave masters on those crosses, you know, because she comes into Marine and she sees the children on the crosses. She inflicts that same punishment on the masters by pinning them up on the crosses. But remember the one man that she, I can't even remember what his name was, but there was a moment of time she was kind of going to marry him, and he was the son of one of the slave masters. And if you guys remember that scene, I mean, he was saying, you know, my father, he was a slave master, but he didn't totally support the system. Because he was kind of just doing what he had to do to survive, and yeah, I would like his body back to give him a proper burial, but yet Daenerys refuses him, saying that his body is going to remain on that cross as punishment. So, I mean, that's one of those early examples of her ignoring and refusing the complexities of human nature and just seeing people as pure good or pure evil. And I think we can tie that into how she feels about her liberation of King's Landing, and that these people, they chose to stay with Cersei and support her. But that's not true, you know? That's not true, but she doesn't see it that way. So yeah, a lot of people have been I think, simplifying Daenerys' turn into the Mad Queen. They've been simplifying it, but I think when you really dig into Daenerys' turn to the dark side, I mean, it's very complex when you think about it, and you think about all of the little pieces that we've gathered as evidence to support her current behavior. So it's much more complex, to me anyway, with her turn to the dark side. So where was I? I kind of went off into that tangent about Daenerys. But yeah, once again, her saying we're going to liberate the whole world, and we're going to go to Winterfell and Dorne, and yeah, Jon may not understand Dothraki, but I think he hears the word Winterfell, and he hears the word Dorne, and he hears all the other places in Westeros, and I think he realizes, yeah, this doesn't sound good. So Tyrion, in the meantime, Tyrion walks up. He's very bold and brazen in this moment. I was terrified. I was like, oh my god, Tyrion is about to freaking die, like right here and right now. Tyrion, he removes his hand at the queen pin, he tosses it, and Daenerys arrests him for treason, tells him to go be imprisoned. So Daenerys takes off back into the main castle. Jon and Arya reunite. Yeah, Arya just comes out of nowhere. Arya just appears out of nowhere right next to Jon. I think he's even like, where'd you come from? And yeah, Arya even says to Jon, kind of insinuating, Jon, you need to be careful where you go from here, because you are the rightful heir as well. She knows who you are. I know a killer when I see one. So yeah, Arya has been in the company of many a killer. She herself has been a killer. She knows that look of insanity in a killer, and when they have that desire to kill. So yeah, kind of that first little bit of foreshadowing there that Jon needs to step up, because he's kind of really the only one who can. So yeah, Jon goes to Tyrion. This was a really fantastic scene with Peter Dinklage and Kit Harington. And Tyrion is essentially trying to plead to Jon that Jon needs to kill Daenerys. No one else is going to be able to get close to Daenerys. Jon is kind of maybe the closest person who can kill her. And Jon still is confused. After everything Jon Snow has just seen, Jon Snow is still conflicted and confused. I'm gonna boil it down that he's just in shock. He's still in shock. He's seen King's Landing burn to the ground. He's seen the bodies of men, women, and children burned on the ground. But Jon is still saying to Tyrion, she is my queen. I am still loyal to her. And he's still trying to justify her actions after everything he has just seen and after everything he has just heard. It's like, oh my god, Jon, wake up, snap out of it. I think that's what this whole episode is really about. It's about Jon Snow waking up and seeing the light. And even though Jon is saying all of these things, Tyrion, Tyrion has always been he's always had a good read on people and their character, and he knows that Jon, he may be half Targaryen, but he's also half Stark, and Starks, there's that loyalty and nobility in them, and their behavior and their actions, and I think Tyrion, he knows there is still goodness in Jon. He knows that Jon, that loyal part of him is coming out, like, you say that you are loyal to Daenerys, but are you really? Because I don't think you are. So yeah, Tyrion kind of has a better read on Jon than Jon has on himself, it seems. So we're about halfway in the episode by this point, you guys, or at least fairly close to the halfway point. We see Daenerys, she walks into the Iron Throne room, and I really love this whole scene, because this whole scene, if you were to re-watch the House of the Undying, and you were to kind of parallel it with this scene, like play it side by side, just about this whole scene with Daenerys walking in up to the Iron Throne, it parallels and mimics the House of the Undying, just all of the angles and camera positions and whatnot, it all kind of matches up quite perfectly, I think. But remember, at the House of the Undying, Daenerys does not touch the Iron Throne. Instead, she turns and she goes to see Drogo and her unborn child. So in this scenario, Daenerys does get to the Iron Throne, and she does touch the Iron Throne, but she does not sit in the Iron Throne, you guys. The funny thing about this episode, no one sits on the damn Iron Throne, you guys. Nobody. It's like the Iron Throne, it doesn't matter. Who cares? No one sits on it. The only person who gets close to it is Daenerys, and she touches it. So yeah, Jon comes on in. I think he's already made up his mind what he needs to do, but he's very reluctant about it, because I think he's still trying to justify things. I think he's still trying to read Daenerys. He's still trying to see if there's an ounce of goodness left in her. He still wants to believe in her. But yeah, once she starts justifying her own actions, and actions that he doesn't agree with, yeah, that is kind of the last straw for him. So yeah, you guys watch the episode. I'm not going to sit here and recount every ounce of their discussion with one another. I mean, let's just jump right to the very end of this very climatic moment that happens between Jon and Daenerys. Yeah, once again, her trying to justify her actions, him trying to see the light and tell her, you don't have to do these things, and they're getting closer and closer, and I think we, the audience, we know what's coming. We know exactly what's coming, but it's still kind of a shock when it happens. And as they are getting closer and closer together, they're just all right up on each other by this point. Yeah, Daenerys is saying, build a new world with me, let's do this together, let's break the will together. And there is that old Daenerys in her final moments. In her final moments, I think we do see glimpses of the old Daenerys here. That young girl full of hope and ambition, and she just wants love. She just wants love. She wants to be with Jon. She wants to do everything together with him. She has no desire to kill him. Because I had my concerns that she might want to kill Jon. But no, I mean, she wants to be with him. She wants to do all this together. So we do see that old Daenerys, I think, in there. She doesn't end as a straight out villain. Like I said, this show is much more complex than pure heroes and pure villains. And that applies to Daenerys. Even after the terrible things she just did with King's Landing, I don't think it just makes her a pure villain, it's much, like I said, it's just much, much more complex than that. And yeah, I mean, we see her with Jon, and you guys, as soon as they're kissing and the camera's panning up away from the lower half, I was like, it's coming. It is coming. For sure enough, you hear the sound of Daenerys being stabbed, and it's even though it's expected, there's still a certain amount of shock to it, because it's like, this is Daenerys Targaryen, who we have spent episode 1 with, and it's just kind of this weird shock, like, oh my god, Daenerys Targaryen is dead, you guys. She's dead, and Jon Snow just killed her. It's kind of overwhelming, almost. And there's a certain realism here. Daenerys, she doesn't get no grand final words. You know, Game of Thrones, that's what Game of Thrones has always been about, is that it's always been about realistic death. You know, that when you die, you don't have a chance to say goodbye. You don't have a chance to give a final grand speech. Life doesn't work that way. Death doesn't work that way. And yet Daenerys, I mean, she dies kind of quickly. she just up and dies just like that. There's no fanfare. There's no final words or sense of celebration. You know, she just collapses and dies right there in Jon Snow's arms, and it's like, oh my goodness. And yeah, it looks like he got her directly in the heart, you guys. He goes for a quick death, you know, he goes for a very quick death that won't cause her much pain, I suppose. Yeah, she's bleeding out from the mouth, she's bleeding out from the nose, and she just dies. And that's it for Daenerys Targaryen, you guys. She just dies right there in that moment, and it's like, oh my god. It's like, I really had no words. You know, I still don't have no words about what just happened. It's taking me time to process. I'm still trying to process this episode, you guys. And I think it's going to take me a while to continue to process it. And I think one of the saddest things that happens in this whole damn episode, you guys, is when Drogon flies in. He's looking at Daenerys' body, and he's making little whimpering sounds, and he takes his nose and he's kind of nudging at Daenerys to see if she's awake, and that got me, you guys. I was bawling my eyes out with Drogon doing that to Daenerys. I had to reach for a tissue. I couldn't see a damn thing. I could barely even see Drogon destroying the Iron Throne. My eyes were so full of tears. I was like, wait a minute, Drogon, wait, I need to wipe my eyes. There's Daenerys on the ground. Drogon, he sets flame to the Iron Throne, but he doesn't do anything to Jon, weirdly enough. It does make you question, why does Drogon not turn on Jon? I mean, does Jon's Targaryen blood, that's what's saving him in this moment? That even though he just killed Daenerys, Drogon doesn't have it in him to murder the last Targaryen? You know, I don't know. It is very, it's kind of baffling. Like, yeah, Jon doesn't die in this moment, you guys. He could have easily been ate or roasted. Instead, Drogon sets flame to the Iron Throne. He destroys that symbol of power and ambition, kind of as if saying, if Daenerys couldn't have it, no one's gonna have it. So yeah, Drogon, he takes off with Daenerys in his talons, and that's it. Where do they go? We don't know. That's the last image we get of Drogon and Daenerys, just them flying away. I don't know if we're led to believe that possibly Drogon took her to, is it Valyria? The ancestral home of the Targaryens, the place that essentially kind of got Pompeii'd, if you will. What we know about Targaryen lore is that the Targaryen ancestral home was destroyed, possibly by volcanic ash, maybe kind of like Pompeii. It still exists out there, but it's not habitable. Are we led to believe that possibly he took her there to be buried alongside her ancestors, possibly? I don't know. We'll talk about a little bit of that later with Drogon, because Bran does mention some interesting things there about Drogon, I think. But yeah, I'm not sure what we're supposed to take with that. But yeah, that's the last image we have of Drogon and Daenerys. And it's a very sad, bittersweet kind of ending there. And we don't get a conclusion, you know? We don't get like this massive proper conclusion. It kind of just ends there. So we move on from that, and we figure out through Tyrion's growth of beard that some time has gone by. Probably a good month or two has gone by, because you got to take into consideration that everybody needed to travel to King's Landing. So we're probably led to believe a month or two has gone by for everybody to finally meet up. But yeah, Tyrion, he's taken from his jail cell. Grey Worm escorts him to the dragon pit, and this is where we have all the leaders of Westeros, all of the major houses essentially. Everybody is here at the dragon pit, and yeah, this was kind of a surprising scene. I just wasn't expecting a scene like this, and yeah, so many cameos, you guys, so many cameos from people. But yeah, let me just go down the list of who we have here. Sansa, Arya, Bran, Brienne, Davos, Gendry. Gendry, by the way, looking super fine, you guys. Sam, Edmure Tully. I was thrilled just to see Edmure Tully, you guys. Robin Arryn. I tell you, the memes, have you guys seen the memes for Robin Arryn? That Robin Arryn went all Neville Longbottom on us. I didn't really pay attention to Robin Arryn, but apparently people were very fixated on the fact that it looked like he got hot all of a sudden, kind of like the character of Neville Longbottom from the Harry Potter franchise. But yeah, the memes for Robin Arryn have been hilarious. If you've not seen them, go hunt them down, because they're absolutely priceless. Lord Royce is also there with Robin. Yara Greyjoy's there. Hallelujah. I'm glad to see Yara. Yeah, the new Prince of Dorne, who we still don't have any sort of name for, but he's the new Prince of Dorne. And then yeah, it looks like there's a few other random people there. It looked like there were 3 other men there. I didn't really get a good look at them, and I wasn't really quite sure who they were. I'm not sure if they were... I don't know if one of them was another Northern Lord, if one of them was another house from the Vale. I really don't know. But yeah, we have a wide group of people here. And by the way, before I forget, Sansa's new look, you guys. She's wearing pretty much the same outfit, but her hair's styled a little differently with the braids kind of in the front. I love Sansa's new look. So yeah, we have all these characters, and Tyrion's brought in. Everybody is conflicted. Everybody still has divided loyalties. I mean, obviously Sansa was never in support of Daenerys. Sansa, I think, is there to definitely speak on the behalf of Tyrion. But then, yeah, you have Yara, and I think even the new Prince of Dorne. Yara and Dorne very much were in support and in league with Daenerys and the things that she was going after. So yeah, Yara is kind of on the side of, let's kill Tyrion, we don't need him, he was treasonous against her. So yeah, all of these people, I mean, there's a lot of open conflict here and a lot of words spoken, and it's kind of like, well, what do we do? You know, where do we go from here? How do we get to a peaceful solution that will please everybody? So yes, some ideas are thrown out there. One of the most hilarious things is when Edmure Tully stands up, you guys, because I think Tyrion is asking, okay, who wants the throne? Should we just nominate ourselves, whoever gets on the throne or whatever? Edmure Tully stands up. He starts to give a speech, which I think he was going in the direction that he felt like he should rule King's Landing. That's the vibe I was getting. And he's sitting there just kind of babbling away, and Sansa's like, Uncle, sit down. Surprisingly, you guys, we've just had all of this drama and angst and turmoil in the episode, and it's kind of interesting how the last half of the episode is actually kind of humorous in a weird sort of way. So yeah, Sansa going, Uncle, sit down. Basically saying, we don't have time for you, you're just very egotistical if you think you're the rightful guy to sit in King's Landing, you know. So Edmure just quietly sits back down, a little ashamed, I think. And yes, Sam even brings up the idea of a democracy, that the leader of King's Landing should be someone nominated and voted for by the people. But everybody laughs at that idea. You know, because this was a theory that I think even we, the fandom, were speculating. Is there the possibility of Westeros going in the direction of democracy? But yeah, they all laugh at that idea. They're nowhere near ready for a democracy. So yeah, Sam's idea is quickly pushed to the side, which is a shame. So Tyrion suggests the idea of, well, if we're not going to have someone just kind of step up to be the leader, if we're not going to have a democracy, how about all of us, all of the leading people of Westeros, you know, the people in charge, how about we all get together and we essentially pick somebody? You know, we pick somebody, and that's how it's going to work. We're not going to have a monarchy. Essentially, we're not going to have somebody be born to be king or queen. When our new king or queen dies, they die, and we put somebody else there. We vote on somebody. That's kind of how they're going to do it. Democracy, sort of, not totally, but sort of. To some extent, if you want to think about it that way, they're still going to nominate and vote for somebody, but yeah, it's not going to be based off of what the people think, you know, that's kind of the thing. It's not based off what the people think, it's going to be based off of what we, the rich and wealthy privileged people, think. And this is where we get the first big WTF moment of the episode, like, what? Because I was definitely in disbelief. I'm still not sure how to process this. Tyrion suggests Bran Stark, you guys, as the new king of King's Landing. How do we feel, guys? How do we feel about this? Like I said, I'm still processing. I'm not sure how I feel just yet. In some ways, Tyrion suggesting Bran, there is this degree of, oh my god, it just kind of comes out of nowhere, it comes out of left field. What is prompting this? But when you realistically think about it, and when Tyrion explains his reasoning, it kind of seems like Bran is the obvious right choice, because Bran he's never been ambitious, he's never wanted leadership, and that's kind of exactly what Westeros needs right now. You know, they need someone stable who's not going to just go all crazy and destroy everything. We need stability. And I think in Tyrion's eyes, Bran doesn't threaten anybody. He's nothing. You know, he's nothing to nobody. And I think that's kind of the point. He doesn't threaten anything. He's not a threat to anyone or anything. He kind of just is, you know. He's not done anything offensive or terrible to anybody. So yeah, in a strange way, Bran is a good choice, I guess. He's the most unlikely choice, but I think that's what's supposed to work about that, you know, and I think that's the point. That's the point of what Tyrion is trying to do. We need to think outside of the box, you know, we need to get over ourselves and our egos and our own personal ambitions, and we need to pick someone who is truly good, you know, someone who will have responsibility, I suppose. And in turn, Bran immediately makes Tyrion the hand of the king. And yeah, poor Tyrion, he's never going to get out of this life, because Tyrion's like, no, I don't want it. And Bran kind of turns the tables on him, like, well, I don't want to be king, and you don't want to be the hand. I think that makes us perfect. You know, that is exactly what Westeros needs right now. We need people who don't want this job. And so they go around the dragon pit. Everyone is either saying yay or nay, and everyone does say yay. But when it gets to Sansa turns to her brother, and she's kind of accepting of his new role, but she straight out says to him, the North is going to be its own separate thing. We are not going to bend the knee to King's Landing. We have always said we are for the North, we are not for King's Landing, and no king or queen of King's Landing. So yeah, Sansa makes that decision of that they're going to be separate. And I love that. I really, really love that. And the thing is, everybody else is accepting of that. You know, strangely enough, no one else questions it. Everyone kind of just accepts it. Bran is perfectly fine with it. That works out nicely in Sansa's benefit, that a Stark is the king in King's Landing, you know, because she can kind of get away with things, I feel like. Like making this request that the North stays separate. So yeah, that's the end of that scene. I love that scene. I really loved the scene Robin and Yara and Edmure. You know, I really liked seeing some characters we've not seen for quite a little while. So the next scene we get to Tyrion. He goes to Jon. Jon's been in prison this entire time as well. It's kind of shocking that he wasn't executed. I'm very surprised he wasn't executed, because I feel like Grey Worm would have just immediately killed him outright, you know. But once again, I think Grey Worm, even though Grey Worm has done some crazy things these last couple episodes as well, Grey Worm was still holding back, you know. He knows that Jon is still pivotal to things, pivotal to other houses, and yeah, I think he didn't want to sit and start like a war with other people by killing Jon, you know. So yeah, Jon is still alive. He's a haggard looking mess, you guys. And Tyrion says that Jon is going to return to the Night's Watch, because the reason is that he says letting you walk free will start a war. That's just going to start a war with the Unsullied if you become king, because they definitely don't want you king after what you did to Daenerys. And yeah, Jon, just the best case scenario for Jon to return stability and normality, Jon just needs to go back up to the Watch and live out his life there. You know, live out his life in peace and just stay away from this madness, you know. And Jon is accepting of this. Jon, he's not angry, you know, he lets this information sink in. He's okay with it. But he's still very guilt-ridden. You know, I think Jon is confused why he's even still alive. You know, I think he feels like he needs to die. He's questioning to Tyrion, is it right what I did? Is it right that I killed Daenerys? And yeah, Tyrion even says to Jon, ask me in 10 years. You know, ask me later in 10 years if what we did was the right thing. Because right now, there's no way of knowing what the future holds right now. There's no way of knowing if killing Daenerys was a good thing, if it was a bad thing. There's no way to know if there's no way to know if having Bran become king, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, the future is very much uncertain at this point. And I think that kind of speaks almost to the fandom, you know, just how we've watched this show, you know. What are our feelings about this show 10 years from now, you know? Or how are we going to feel about this ending 10 years from now? It's almost meta in a sense. So that's it there with Jon. He's just kind of going on up. He's accepting his fate. And we see Jon's goodbyes to his family. This got me pretty teary-eyed as well. He hugs Sansa goodbye, essentially kind of giving her his blessing, like she's going to be a good ruler of the North. She's Ned Stark's daughter. He has hope and faith in her that she'll be a good leader up there. He says goodbye to Arya, and yeah, Arya is saying, hey, I'm going west of Westeros, because she even mentioned that to Lady Crane back in was that season 6, I think? She mentioned that to Lady Crane, when Lady Crane was saying, hey, what do you plan on doing? And yeah, Arya's like, hey, what's west of Westeros? So that's Arya's plans. And yeah, Jon bends the knee to Bran, and I'm kind of surprised he bent the knee, because it's still his brother, because I was kind of waiting for Bran to say, you know, you're my brother, don't bend the knee to me. And yeah, Jon he's apologizing to Bran. He feels the need to apologize to Bran, like, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. Because yeah, Bran has gone through so much crap, you guys. Yeah, losing his family, Theon taking over Winterfell, and then he's forced to flee, and then he goes up and finds the damn tree, and yeah, all of his interactions with the Whites and the Night King, and yeah, Bran has been through a hell of a time, and I think Jon feels that responsibility and guilt, like, I abandoned my family in their time of need. But yeah, Bran is reassuring Jon you were where you were always meant to be. You know, your story led you in a different direction, and your story led you to this final moment. Everything you did, it had to transpire in the way that it did. So yeah, it's a very sad emotional goodbye there with the Stark siblings as they all say goodbye. We do move to Brienne. This was a very sad scene as well with Brienne, because as soon as she had that big giant book, I was like, oh, I know exactly what she's doing here. And sure enough, Brienne pulls out that big tome about the knights, and she finishes up Jaime Lannister's story. You guys, I really love that. She finishes up his story, because, you know, even remember back in was it season 4? Remember when Joffrey was mocking Jaime's page, because all the other knights had like pages and pages of history and information of their great deeds, but for Jaime kind of just had that he had killed the Kingslayer. You know, that was kind of his greatest, biggest achievement, and Joffrey was making fun of him. So yeah, I love this moment that Brienne finishes Jaime's story, and yeah, it occupies a couple pages. And yeah, I think we're led to believe too that Brienne, she'll write her own story as well. She can now, thanks to Jaime, she can have a story in here as well that people can remember her through the ages. So yeah, a lovely ending there. Yeah, no dialogue, you know, it was a scene that had no dialogue, but yeah, just beautifully acted and directed, I think. A lot of poignant meaning there, you know, a lot of unspoken meaning there. And then we move to the new small council, you guys. This is the perfect small council. This is a small council of people who are genuine, and these people don't have ambitions or ulterior motives. Because yeah, you think back to season 1 with Robert Baratheon's small council, you had Littlefinger as the master of coin, but yeah, Littlefinger being a very duplicitous guy. Even Varys as the master of whispers. I mean, Varys could be very duplicitous and very ambitious. Grandmaster Pycelle, you know, he was duplicitous because we thought he was just some cranky, old, cruddy old man, but you know, we saw those moments where Pycelle, he wasn't actually the old crippled man that he was acting like, you know, that was all an act. And yeah, the small council has always been these men of ambition and greed and ulterior motives, and yeah, this new small council, you have Tyrion, you have Bronn as the master of coin. Bronn can go either way, you know, Bronn has always looked out for number 1. He can be, there's a bit of shadiness there with Bronn, but I think he's found his place, you know, I think he's found his safety and his security, and I don't imagine Bronn, like, turning on these people, you know. So yeah, we get to see Bronn come back. He is Lord of Highgarden. Yeah, Sam is there as the new Maester, Brienne is there, Davos is there. I mean, this is a group of good guys, you know, this is a group of good guys. This is a group of people who should be in charge of King's Landing. These should be the people giving advice to Bran. And a really nice moment here, Sam brings out the Song of Ice and Fire book that was written by Maester Ebros. Maester Ebros is Jim Broadbent's character, right? I can't remember what his name was. I seriously can't remember. I think Jim Broadbent was Master Ebros. But yeah, apparently he's been working on this book, A Song of Ice and Fire, the title suggested by Sam. I think we were all hoping Sam would write A Song of Ice and Fire, but at least he gave the title. So yeah, this book is just the history, what has transpired. But yeah, poor Tyrion's not in it. Tyrion thinks, oh, I bet he doesn't have any good things to say about me, but he's not in there at all, period. And then Bran, in the meantime, Bran's wheeled in. Is Podrick, like, the master of wheelchairing? Is he going to be the guy who wheelchairs the king into the room? I think that's what Pod's position is. He's going to always be there with Bran, wheeling him in. But yeah, Bran does mention that he's going to continue to warg and look for Drogon. I guess with the intention, you know, we need to know where this dragon is. This dragon can't come back and kill us, you know. So yeah, that's an interesting ending there, you know. Once again, just kind of this uncertainty and ambiguousness with Drogon, where he took Daenerys, and is Drogon important, you know. But yeah, Bran is he's kind of suggesting he's going to keep looking, keep an eye out on Drogon, so Drogon is not a problem in the future. And the small council ends in a rather humorous, uplifting way, considering all the drama we've just had. And yeah, there's just back and forth about what we should focus on. Let's do this, let's do that. And yeah, Bronn's concern about the brothels, that they need to rebuild the brothels. And yeah, Brienne, I love Brienne. Like, I think ships take precedent over brothels. So yeah, the small council ends in a kind of a happy, uplifting way, like, there's hope for this world. This is what we need. These are the people we need in charge. So we get to the very end of the episode, you guys, and I loved how this ending is, because this whole show, I think, has always been about the Starks. It's always been about Jon, Arya, and Sansa to some degree, and the episode ends showing the three of these characters that we have come to love, and where their journeys are going. And yeah, we see Arya getting on a ship, heading west of Westeros, and she has an exciting new journey ahead of her. And then Sansa, you guys, we see Sansa. Yes, I had to wear my Lady of Winterfell t-shirt today, you guys. They better make a damn Queen of the North t-shirt. I need one so I can support my girl Sansa. Sansa, she walks in to I guess the throne room now of Winterfell. She has a beautiful new coronation dress on. She gets a crown with like a dire wolf on it. And yes, she's proclaimed Queen of the North, you guys. I freaking loved it. I really wanted Sansa on the Iron Throne, you guys. I'm not going to lie, because I kind of wanted those parallels to Queen Elizabeth I. But I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with Sansa's ending, that she's in her rightful element. She's in her rightful place, and yes, she's Queen of the North. She's doing her own thing away from the rest of Westeros. I loved it. Absolutely satisfied with Sansa's ending, you guys, after all the crap she's been through. And then Jon, we see Jon go up to the wall. He's reunited with Tormund, and better, you guys, this is the best moment of the whole damn episode, you guys. Even if you hated everything about this episode, you gotta agree that the best moment is that Jon is reunited with Ghost, and he pets him, and it's glorious, you guys, because we were all pissed. We were all pissed that Jon did not pet Ghost goodbye. So Jon is redeemed. Thank God. Jon is redeemed. He pets Ghost. They're sitting there smiling, or Jon's smiling at Ghost, and it is, that made me happy. Made me so happy. And yeah, Jon's story ends, and he's escorting the wildlings beyond the wall, because, Tormund was saying that they want to go back to their home. I mean, there's nothing out there that'll hurt them, there's not the threat of the White Walkers or the Night King out there. They can go back out there and live in peace and do their own thing, and Jon's escorting them out there, and that's the last image we get. It's with Jon escorting the wildlings, and it is this, bittersweet. I mean, that's kind of the big word that everybody who works on the show is using, that it's going to be a bittersweet ending. Because yeah, I mean, I think we all really wanted Jon on the throne. It seemed very likely that Jon was going to be the new leader and the new king, but I think this is the perfect ending for Jon, that bittersweet element there, because Jon has never wanted leadership, he's always been very reluctant, but the Night's Watch has always been his element. It's always been his thing. The Night's Watch has always been where he's at his most comfortable and where he's at his most effective, and I think that's the ending he deserves, and yeah, this ending also provides him time to come to terms with what he did. Jon has seen terrible things, and he killed Daenerys. He killed Daenerys, and he's still at conflict within himself about if he did the right or wrong thing. And can you imagine Jon if Jon was king right now? I mean, we don't need a king, or Westeros doesn't need a king that is all gloomy and down and, feeling guilty and upset, and depressed. Jon didn't need kingship on top of his feelings. So yeah, this is the perfect ending for him to face his inner demons and come to terms with what he did, because it's going to take him years, He's not going to accept what he did until years later down the line. So yeah, you guys, that's it for the series finale of Game of Thrones. What a season! What a finale! I'm still shocked about the brand twist. I'm still trying to process it, you guys. Um, but yeah, I'm just, like I said, you guys, I'm so grateful for this show in my life. I'm so appreciative. I'm thankful for, you know, just all of the other like YouTube channels I've got to discover, the other YouTubers who are passionate about this show, who have shared their thoughts. You know, it's just been such a journey being with other people who love this show just as much as I do. And yeah, I can't wait to see where we go from here with the fandom of Game of Thrones, because we know there's a prequel show coming out, which I'm very excited about, plus some other spin-offs, which I'm curious about. Yeah, I'm very excited to see where George R. R. Martin goes with this. Yeah, is it going to end with this twist that Bran's going to be king, you know? Because I know George R. R. Martin told David Benioff and D.B. Wise, he told them certain things, and I think he even told them the ending, but yeah, David Benioff and D.B. Wise, they have made it clear that they were purposely going to change some things, so that way when people do read George R. R. Martin's books, they will still have an element of surprise. So I'm curious if this finale, is this the end of George R. R. Martin's books, or is it not? You know, are we still in for some wild and crazy twists and turns? You know, that this isn't even the half of it. So yeah, there's just so many things I'm excited for and looking forward to, and at the end of the day, I'm pleased. You know, I'm pleased and I'm satisfied with this show. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of people who aren't. You know, there's going to be a lot of people who aren't. You can't please everybody. But yeah, I hope everybody has some sort of sense of closure, you know? Hopefully everybody has some sort of sense of closure. So you guys, that is it for my review of the series finale of Game of Thrones. It's very heartbreaking that I'm even saying this. So you guys, that's it for this review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.